Alright, let's take a look at the shortest managerial reigns in the Premier League, one for each year of the decade. Some of these managers did not last long at all. 2010, Chris Hughton. This is a list of hopeless managers who couldn't motivate a sack of butter. It's a pile of bosses who honestly should have applied for a different profession. A gardener, sheep shearer, work down at old folks' home, anything but be a football manager. None of this applies to Chris Hughton though. Yes, he only lasted just 14 months as Newcastle boss, but this was a pathetic decision. He was appointed in the summer 2009 for no other reason than nobody else wanted the job. The club were relegated, had just shipped 6 in a pre-season friendly at Leyton Orient. It wasn't so much a football club as it was a car boot sale, chucking most of the players out to the highest bidder. Hughton though knuckled down, steadied the ship, won the championship title, recorded incredible Premier League wins like a 6-0 revenge romp over Aston Villa, the club who relegated them, all 3 points at the Emirates Stadium, a cup win at Stamford Bridge, a 5-1 Derby Day thumping of Sunderland, and then he was sacked in December without so much as a thank you. The board said it was because they felt they needed an experienced head, and so swiftly plucked Pardew straight out of League 1. Makes sense? 2011 Roy Hodgson. Roy Hodgson is the king at turning his career around but looks dead and buried. This is a man who was one half of football away from relegation with Fulham, where he would have almost certainly crawled his way to another sacking and would never be heard from again. Then there was the 6 months of pure disaster at Anfield. Tell someone in January 2011, after he'd overseen home defeats to Blackpool, that he'd one day be appointed England manager and you'd be laughed at in the street. And again, he's doing very well at Crystal Palace now after becoming a walking meme at Euro 2016. But yeah, his time at Liverpool, unmitigated disaster. But best to sum it up right. Well, there were the purchases of Paul Konchesky, Christian Poulsen, a fat Joe Cole, Milan Jovanovic. That alone should have come with a prison sentence. There were the faces to both Manchester clubs, Blackpool, Everton, Stoke, Spurs, Newcastle Wolves and Blackburn Rovers. Oh yeah, and they were knocked out of the League Cup by Northampton Town at home. By the time you sacked in the first week of January, they were 4 points off relegation. Christ. 2012 Terry Connor. You have to feel bad for poor old Terry Connor. This man is not a professional football manager, right? He's not. Simply put it, his job is just simply to be stuck to Mick McCarthy's hip. I wouldn't be surprised if Mick packed him in a suitcase when we went away on a honeymoon. They'll probably be buried together in the same coffin. This wasn't fair to Terry Connor though. To give him the task of reviving a sinking ship in February 2012, McCarthy was sacked, and so instead of the Wolves board actually getting off their arse to appoint a successor, just lazily gave it to the assistant manager. 4 draws, 9 defeats from his 13 games in charge. 2 of them 5-0 defeats. Poor old Terry, he did not deserve this. 2013 Paolo Di Canio. 13 games is all Paolo Di Canio was given in the Premier League. It felt longer, didn't it? His short-lived reign was insane. When it went well, Sunderland looked amazing. There was that 3-0 win at the home of their most hated rivals when Di Canio sprinted down the touchline like a madman. They followed it up with a home win over Everton to all but preserve safety. And then there was that 6-1 defeat at Villa Park, which rocked confidence. Over the summer, there were fallouts with players to the extent where their goddamn right back took to Twitter to laugh at his own club after an opening day defeat to Fulham. John O'Shea, the club captain, was branded as two-faced. Clearly the morale in the camp was dead and buried. Several of the players were even going to the hierarchy and demanding their manager be sacked. They got their wish after just 1 point for the first 5 games of the 13-14 season. The lasting memory of Di Canio in the top flight is him brazenly walking over to the travelling support after a 3-0 humiliation at West Brom and calmly telling them to keep their chins up. All the while, several hundred Mackham screaming ungodly abuse into his face. What a bitter breakup. 2014 René Moulenstein. I'm not sure why Fulham's blueprints for attempted survival is going through 3 managers in a season. It never works out for them. Back during the 13-14 campaign, they clearly had no plan. Locked in relegation trouble, Fulham had dismissed Martin Jol in November, only to replace him with René Moulenstein. I'm not sure why they thought it would work. His only experience in management was 1 season in Brøndby, a few campaigns at the back arse of Qatar, and coaching the Man United reserves. It didn't work. 10 defeats later, including an inexcusable 6-0 reverse at Hull, and he was spat back out in February to be replaced by Felix Magath. That did not work either. 2015 John Carver. This was gross negligence on behalf of the Newcastle board to ever entrust John Carver with manning the ship. Look, I've met the lad. He's a nice guy, but he is not a football manager. When Alan Pardew left the club in December 2014, clearly the club just couldn't be bothered with hiring an actual replacement. Why would they need to? Pardew with the club 10th in the league with just 5 months left. Surely they were not getting relegated. And then Carver came damn close. Before Christmas, Pardew had embarked on a 5-game winning run. They beat Spurs, Liverpool and Chelsea. This was still not deemed good enough by the fans. Right, so Carver then wins 2 of their final 19 games, including going on an 8-game losing run. And he also found time to accuse the centre half of getting sent off on purpose, and bizarrely told the media that he wanted a team full of Jack Colbacks. 11 Jack Colbacks, one of them is bad enough. Carver somehow managed to take mid-table safety and turn that into a relegation battle, only having to be rescued from yet another relegation by Jonas Gutierrez on the last day, and even then he was sacked over the phone within a week. 2016 Bob Bradley. Oh, Bob Bradley, this was just sad. Sacked by Swansea 2 days after Christmas back in late 2016, he was only 11 games into the job. This is one of the most abysmal reigns of management you were ever likely to see. He was hired in October, proceeded to lose 8 of his 11 games in charge, with his last one being a shocking 4-1 home defeat to West Ham. Yes, he might be a respected and revered coach in the MLS, but in the Premier League, good lord, he was an embarrassment. 2017 Frank de Boer. I actually felt sorry for Frank de Boer. This was when his career died a death. Remember a few years ago, the man had been linked with the jobs at both Tottenham and Liverpool. He was actually seen as a viable candidate and mentioned in the same breath as Mauricio Pochettino and Jurgen Klopp. And then he was sacked after 5 games. His reputation had already been rocked after losing his job at Inter Milan for just 14 games, but this was ridiculous. Why? Crystal Palace, why hire a manager, give him a 3-year contract if you're just going to hit the panic button as soon as things go wrong? 5 games, one of them was a trip to Anfield. It's just a mockery. Yeah, it was 5 straight defeats, and no, Palace didn't score a goal, but still, 5 games, lads. Absolute joke. 2018 Alan Pardew. And this was the moment Alan Pardew's career died a death. Maybe he'll succeed out in the Eredivisie if he ends up at Den Haag. Seemed to work for Steve McLaren, sort of. This was the moment Pardew was finally removed from potential chairman's phone books up and down the country, taking off that perennial managerial merry-go-round after a short-lived spell of the Hawthorns went up in flames. Appointed at the end of November to succeed Tony Pulis, he managed to win just once, having to wait 10 games for his first win. Then he embarked on an 8-game losing streak, oversaw a team jolly up in Spain, where a taxi was stolen, sacked in April, never to be heard from again. To make it all the more embarrassing for him, Darren Moore came in, the guy who's used to putting out cones in training, and even he managed to eke out 3 wins in 1 month, including over Man United and Spurs. If he had managed to keep West Brom up, Pardew would have been spending the next 20 years of his life picking up the empty fragments of his dignity. 2019 Claudio Ranieri. Oh, Claudio Ranieri. We all wanted him to do well at Fulham, to prove to everyone that Leicester wasn't a fluke, but yeah, this was a strange appointment. Fulham hiring the former Chelsea boss in November 2018, clearly hoping lightning would strike twice. It didn't. He was sacked after 16 games, winning 3, drawing 3 and losing 10. When he was given his P45, the club were 10 points adrift of safety. After spending over 100 million quid in the summer, how does that work?